Hey guys, Dave from Wolfhard Hobbying here, and welcome back to another Talk Tuesday. In this one, kind of just going to go over something that I've had a couple people ask me, and it's about being a wargamer and a parent. Now, a lot of the hobby is kind of expensive if you're looking at GW wise. So when you have kids, like I've got 3 all under the age of 10, the hobby seems even more expensive, because you look at prices, you look, do I want this 10-man tactical marine squad for $70 or whatever it costs now, or, I can use that to buy my kids clothing or food or go on trips with them or something like that. So if you've collected a lot and over the years before you had kids, then it's not that big of an issue money-wise. At least I wouldn't think so. I've had a large collection of Eldar that I bought before I had kids, and so I've just only been adding little things here and there over the years. But if you're just getting into the hobby and you have kids, that can be quite expensive. Also, the other issue when you have kids is time. Now, luckily, I've got quite a bit more time. I'm a stay-at-home dad, so I have a little bit more time to work on my hobby, and also to do these videos. Like my son is only 2 years old, so I kind of do these videos in between his nap times and things like that. Or if I'm not recording a video, that's when I do my painting, even my painting tutorials, things like that. So time and money really become a huge factor in wargaming when you have children. Now it all depends on what you are looking at tabletop wise, like X-Wing, which I have recently just got into. One of my friends introduced me to it. I've got some Scum. I've got some actually Imperial stuff coming in. So if you look at a game like X-Wing, then you're spending, you can spend up to maybe $100, and that's a good way of getting you started. Also just getting the starter kit, which comes with the 2 TIE fighters and an X-Wing, and your rules, your measurements, all that, everything you need to start playing the game. Canadian, I believe it's like $45. Not 100% sure on that, on the pricing, but and it varies from place to place as well. And if your retailer gives you some discount, anyways. But like X-Wing, $45 gets you and a buddy started. One person play the X-Wing, the other can play the TIE fighters, and then you can add on from there. And especially if you go halves with somebody, say we'll go 50-50 on this, and we'll buy, you buy an extra X-Wing if they want to play Rebels or whatever, and I'll get the TIE fighters, and split it up that way. Now I know model wise it's not 50-50 because there's only 3 models and 1 X-Wing, but that's something you can work out with your friends. So, roughly like $23 maybe, and you can get started. And the booster packs or the little expansions, like just the 1 ships, they range from for a Canadian at least $17 to $22 or something like that, depending on what the size of the model and things like that. You can get into the larger expansions like Slave 1, the Imperial Aces, which gives you 2 TIE interceptors. The price will increase as you look at the broader spectrum of all the models. But a game like that is very cheap to get into. So if you are a parent and you love Star Wars, pick up X-Wing. And you want to get some people into tabletop gaming, or you have a local club, then go check out their X-Wing scene. Excuse me, because again, it's very cheap to get into, and you don't need a lot of models, like 100 points. Like for my Scum, I have 4 models. I've got Slave 1. The what's it called? The Most Wanted, which comes with an X-wing. 5 models. A Y-wing, not an X-wing. A Y-wing and 2 headhunters, and then I picked up a Hawk 290. Just because the Most Wanted gives you the option of taking the Hawk 290 as scum. Anyways, I think all that, like that's 100 points. That's over 100 points actually. I can comfortably go over 100 points in that game. And I think like Slave 1 was like $33, so 60. I'm looking at about $100, and I've got well over 100 points worth of models, and it's only 5 models. And and the great thing I like about X-Wing is that you have one model, but you can have like 5 different profiles for it. Different pilots, and then you can upgrade those ships. So in that $17 booster pack for, say, the Hawk 290, you get all the stat cards and everything like that, so you're not lugging around codexes or a large amount of rule books. And it's a very simple game to get into as well. But now another option financially, if you want to, say, buy miniatures that you have to build because you like building and painting, then check out Malifaux. As you guys can tell, I've got actually a lot of Malifaux. My wife's got a lot of Malifaux as well. And you can get the small rulebook. I think I paid $20 Canadian for it, something like that. Anyways, you can get a small rulebook, kind of like what GW has for theirs. It's a condensed rulebook, not a lot of the fluff and things like that. And every model you buy it comes with its own stat cards and everything like that. And the rules are all universal. There is no there are some faction specific rules, but they'll print the rule on the card, which I love, and which my wife really loves, because then you're not having to remember a whole bunch of rules and what they do. Like 40k, you got to kind of remember. All right, my librarian can do this. My chaplain gives this squad this, and and with the Curse of the Wolf and stuff, you got to remember. Okay, it's 12. It's an X amount of bubble that I can roll for this and this and add this to that. So it gets 40k can kind of get confusing if you don't want to remember a whole bunch of those rules, which my wife hates. That's why I can never get her into 40k. But Malifaux, everything's printed on those cards, and there's the occasional time we have to look up a rule. Lately, now that we're playing properly, but Malifaux, you can get the rule book for $20. You can pick up a Fate deck. Is fairly cheap. You can use an old deck of cards. You can go to a dollar store and buy a deck of cards, and the rulebook tells you how to determine which suit is which suit for Malifaux, if that wasn't confusing. And then a starter crew box, I believe they're $45, and that may be US. So $45, you get 5 to 6, depending on the crew. You usually get around 5 to 6 models. And it gives you a leader, a henchman, a totem, and then I can't think of it off the top of my head, but essentially your troops. For $45, you can play with that for months. Which is great for just getting into the hobby. And the sculpts for Malifaux are beautiful. I love the sculpts. The way they're broken up on the sprue, sometimes I don't like having to glue a face onto the back of the head, and the head's like this big. You can screw it up real easily. So there are issues with every company. So if you want to get into the hobby and in a cheap way, then Malifaux is great for the builder and the painting aspect of it. Whereas X-Wing, they come all pre-painted, so you can paint them up again if you wanted to. which I probably will be doing for a couple of my ships. I might do some videos on that. Don't know. I like to surprise you guys because I don't have like a schedule planned of what I want to paint. But yeah, so being a parent, like I look at my budget that, you know, before I became like a parent, well, not before I became like a parent, before I became a parent, my budget, you know, I was just me, so all I had to make sure was my bills were paid, my rent, and had groceries, and everything else was I could spend on whatever I want. And then even when I had kids, that didn't really change too much because when they're babies, they can be expensive with diapers and formula and all that. But they wasn't too expensive, so my expenditure decreased significantly, but I was still able to purchase models. And now with 3, and you know, I no longer work. My wife's the one who works. Since we're a one income family, I kind of rely on a lot of things like, you know, birthdays, Christmases, things like that, to get my models and things like that. So, you know, even when you're working 2 incomes, GW aspect, like Warhammer, is very expensive, but there are other means of getting into the hobbies in a cheaper fashion. Like you can get the Assassinorum box set, which I'm not sure on the price here anymore. I remember picking it up for, I believe, $150 Canadian. So I don't know. I don't think it went up in price, but you know, for $150, I got a board game and some miniatures to add to my collection already, which was great. You know, because it gives you that building aspect, it gives you the painting aspect, it gives you miniatures that you can play in 40K. And also it gives you a board game to play. So you can play with your friends and things like that. It's a great introduction into the hobby, which is really awesome. Now, the other aspect of wargaming as a parent is your time. Again, like 2 of my kids are school age, so when they're at school and my son's home with me, it's really hectic to find time to really play, as well as it is very hectic to find time to build and paint. But with everything, it's just really about budgeting your time, and all depends on how old your kids are as well. Like my son, you know, he's very awesome. He doesn't touch my stuff. You know, he likes to look at it and things like that, but you know, he doesn't get into things right now. But you know, he'll sit there and like, so I can build with, you know, with him sitting next to me. I have, you know, there's times where he'll sit, I give him an older model or a model he can't really break and a paintbrush, and he'll sit there and pretend to paint just like I do. So that's a great way to, you know, he loves it. He just has a blast doing it with me. So, you know, it's kind of about budgeting your time, and also, you know, maybe getting the kids into the hobby as well. Like my older 2, I've got they've started painting, so you know, they kind of like that aspect of the hobby, but they kind of want to learn to actually play the games. And with me not having a local club, and you know, it's just me and my friends getting together every once in a while, or me and my wife playing Malifaux, it's really awesome to see my kids wanting to get into the hobby, even if it is just playing. So like, it comes down to like budgeting your time that way. Like, okay, I want to spend time with my kids, but I also want to be playing. So introduce them into the hobby, you know, if they're old enough, obviously, and they can handle some of the rules. So like, I'm not teaching my kids 40K, at least not right now. Maybe a little later down the line. But my older 2 are not learning 40K. But something like X-Wing, again, I'm going back to X-Wing, that has a very simple move mechanic and a very simple dice mechanic. Just playing a basic game with them, or even just making up your own rules for the game, you know, can greatly increase your time that you're spending on the hobby. And as well as if they're into the aspects of painting and building, depending on their age, get them into that as well. Painting kids can do at any age, really. Don't let them use, your good GW or Citadel paints, but go to the dollar store, buy some craft paints, let them slap it on the model and just have a good time with it, and you can do what I do as well, as I teach them different techniques like dry brushing, edge highlighting depending on their age, but a lot of times it's just they're just going to slap paint onto a model and go about that way. But as far as I find, being a parent and a wargamer doesn't really affect either one of them, because of, learning how to meld those two together. Just like being any kind of gamer, really. Like if you're into computer games or you're into console games, things like that, video games in general. I was a heavy gamer before I had kids, and after my kids were born, you kind of you're forced to budget your time. Like, okay, kids are down for an hour. I'm gonna go play WoW or Fallout or whatever. I'm gonna go play some games for a bit, and then when they wake up, I'll pause the game, turn it off, save, and then go be a dad. But I find that it's learning to meld the two together that it really helps with both situations. And if with the financial aspects though, you have to look at cheaper games, or that's why I love the fact that Heralds of Ruin has Kill Team. You want to play some 40k, but you don't want to spend $4,000 or $5,000 on an army, and paints and brushes and everything you need. All right, play some Kill Team. You need like 5, 10, 15 models maybe. So, you're still spending quite a bit if you're with GW, but it's a great way to play the game on a smaller scale. And that's what I'm finding about a lot of these miniature companies that are coming out, like Corvus Belly, Weird, Fantasy Flight as well. Like, they make awesome miniature games. Also look for board games, like Zombicide. My wife loves Zombicide. It's a miniatures game. I've got tons of zombies now because I've got all the seasons and everything like that, and extra packs of this and extra packs of that. But Zombicide is a great miniatures game. A Fantasy Flight has a bunch of them. You've got your Arkham Horror series. You've got Imperial Assault. Again, if you love Star Wars, look at Imperial Assault. It's got RPG elements. It's got the miniatures, already built. You can paint them up. You don't have to. It's also a board style game. So there's tons of options out there for tabletop gamers who are on a tight budget, and nobody's on a tighter budget than a parent. Sorry for the horn honking outside, but with being a parent, you are on a limited budget. Now, as your kids get older, of course, your budget could span, and then once they get their own jobs, hopefully soon. Once they get their own kind of jobs and they can start buying a lot of stuff for themselves, you can see more expanding. But it's just something to think about, because I hear a lot about wargaming and parenting. How do you balance the two? And again, I just say meld the two. Don't try and balance the time that you spend with your family and spend at a local game store. But don't try and balance your home life and miniatures life. I find you'll stress yourself out. You'll feel like you're not getting stuff done in either aspect. So if you meld the two, get your kids involved in what you're doing, show them, teach them, talk to them while you're doing it as well. I find is awesome, because then you're introducing a younger generation to these hobbies, so hopefully that will keep them alive. But at the same time, you're also spending quality time with your family. But that's just me, and it was just a thought that was in my head because I've seen it on a couple posts, like, again, how do you balance the two? Or, I'm a new parent, but I love wargaming, what should I do? Type idea. And of course, there's always cheap options like eBay and things like that, or Kijiji here in Canada. I'm not sure if they have it everywhere, but Kijiji or like selling sites like that. You can find a lot of cheap options that way, or even your local game store may have used models. You pick up some used models, strip them, paint them. Cheaper alternative than buying brand new. You may not get the war gear you like, but sometimes we have to suffer. But again, introducing your children into the hobby, especially if you're very big into it. Like if you're a casual player, you got a small army, and you don't really like any of the building or painting aspects of it, you can still get them into the playing. And if you're into the hobby for the building, customizing, and painting, well, that's awesome, because I'm a huge fan of art, and I'm a huge fan of I love doing art with my kids. Not a lot of craft projects, but showing them how to paint a model, and how to look at a model and try and think of what it's going to look like at the end. I love doing things like that with my kids. So it's a great learning experience for everybody. But anyways, that's my kind of rant for this week. Just want to show you guys a couple things I'm working on. I'll just grab a couple models here. So plugging away at my Gene Stealers. Here, I'll try to get that in focus. So I've got my base color and just some base colors on them. So as you can tell, I'm going orange colored for my Gene Stealers. I don't really like the black purple ones that they've got on that as well. So I'm plugging away at my Gene Stealers. The Generation 3 hybrids, more human looking ones, I actually have flesh, a flesh base tone for their skin. Not sure how I'm going to highlight those up yet, but just plugging away on those. As you can see, maybe you can't see because it's far away. Got my Patriarch. I'm going to start my painting tutorial on him. But there's a couple things I want to work out, because I am probably going to be putting the painting tutorial for him, because I'm going to be spending a lot more time on him for Patreon only. So I got to figure out a couple things about that, whether I want to do it that way or not. Because again, this hobby is kind of expensive, and being a one-income family, Patreon's up there for the reason if you guys want to support a fellow hobbyist, so I can get more things, cover more games, stuff like that. So that's pretty much what I'm working on. I'm going to be finishing up. This guy might be hard to see as well, but finishing up the Raven Guard Jump Marine for Death Watch. The second part for his painting tutorial, the arm, the silver, that's going to be coming out on Thursday. So we'll be covering how different ways to do the silver. Actually, I'm going to show you one way by just kind of I'm not going to spoil it for you, so stay tuned for that. So I'm just plugging away on this right now. Like I said, I've just gotten into X-Wing, so if you guys want to see some battle reports for X-Wing, let me know, and I'll try and get some of those recorded. I've only played a couple games, so I'm going to be playing a couple more just to get some more experience under the belt, get the rules kind of down packed a little bit more. But if you guys want to see some X-Wing battle reports from me, then by all means, let me know. Just an update on the Death Watch campaign that I said I was going to be doing. We got our guys created, rolled for, just waiting on some miniatures to get in so we can build them, paint them. But what we might do is start it off and just kind of it goes to my one of my other Tuesday talks was about proxying, just playing with what we've got. So might start it off that way. Not too sure. We'll have to see. But anyways, look forward to the Death Watch campaign. I'll let you guys know in one of these Tuesday talks when that's going to start happening. But anyways, I want to thank you guys for watching the video. Links to my Facebook and Patreon accounts will be in the description below. If you want to shoot me a message on Facebook, go for it. As well as if you want, leave your comments below, and if you haven't already, hit the subscribe button and that like button. I want to know, if people are actually watching these or if I'm just talking to the empty space of the internet. Either way, again, thanks for watching the video, guys. It means a lot to me, and showing support even just by watching the YouTube and subscribing to my channel. That's awesome. But I want you guys to have a great day, and talk to you later.